with the shenanigans with Facebook first thing this morning. Okay. Alright. We are live in both places now. Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day. Is on my face. Oh, that was something. Alright, top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Y'all, I don't really know how to explain how fast time is flying. Like, I be sitting here, I'm like, listen, we literally just stepped into January, and we're literally about to step right on out of here into February. Time, it's like, it is moving extremely fast, and how it's picked up speed, I don't quite understand yet. But the days seem shorter. Granted, it's shorter because it's wintertime and the daylight is shorter, but the entire day as a whole seems shorter. It's like it was like another Sabbath had just passed, like another rest day. It's like they're seeming to fall right on top of one another, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys actually pay attention to that, but it seems like time has sped up, if that makes sense, right? Like the days are just super fast. Like we literally just started 2020 and the vid had just broke out. Now we're a whole year later in a different year, right? It's crazy, y'all. Shayla, Betwabu. Mom, happy Friday. Tallane, Tiffany, Sabu, Bona, Yaya, Trina, Betwabu. Hey, girls, hey. Okay, y'all. But I just been thinking about that. I'm like, I don't even understand how it's possible. Granted, there's like no time where Yahuwah resides at, but it just, I don't quite understand. It's like those movies, it's like where they like go into different dimensions. I don't know. I really don't know how to explain it, y'all. But it's like those dimensions where they'll go and they'll be there for maybe like 10 minutes, but 10 days has passed on Earth. That's like an extreme, but there was one that just saw recently. It was called Time Something. They went hiking down into a cave, and down inside this cave, it seemed like everybody who wanted to go hike in this cave never came out. Like, they never came out. So people were scared until you get this group of college students. Ooh, we need to go find our professor. As a matter of fact, the professor was one of the ones who early in his life, I forget the name of the movie. I think it's like time clock or time something, but it was really, really good. And this professor, he was kind of upset. He wasn't obsessed, but he used to always talk about it in his class. And so come to find out, when he went down there, he said he was going to go hike, but the students were like, ooh, let us go. He said, no, this is something I need to do on my own, because we don't really know if the myth is true or not, that nobody ever really comes back. I think it's a bunch of garbage, so I'm going to go down here. But come to find out, he actually knew it was true. You saw it, Mom? Okay, what do you remember the name of it? But come to find out, he knew that myth was true because he had been there with his parents and his little sister before, right? And what happened was they went in and they never came out, right? And so he went down there, and the students are, oh, Professor such and such. He went down to, you seen that time? Yes, and he was looking for them. What's the name of that movie, y'all? But anyway, he went looking, and a couple days had passed, and some of his top students, they were super adventurous and stuff, hey, let's go find the professor, so hey, they said here, and they had like this whole little huddle about it. They said, listen, we need this just in case, and make sure we got all our tools and stuff is working, just in case this is for real, right? And so, but on the way, they went to here's what happened. One of the girls didn't have her vehicle, and now they were stuck. I'm like, now that I had seen the whole movie, that whole beginning was a divine intervention for them. But no, they want to get around it. We're going to go anyway. So let's call our friend. She has a car. Don't you have, but she got a crush on you too. So she'll let us borrow the car. At least she'll drive us there. Sure enough, she gave into it. I'm like, you know what? I can see this already going to turn out bad. What happened was when they went there, oh yeah, I'll go. I can take you guys. Oh yeah, this will be a fun little trip. We can catch up. But what happened was her little sister was home that day, and her little sister also had like this little babysitting job where she babysat. The kid wasn't young. He was like 12 years old, right? So she was like, oh, let us come along. You bring him. He's a knucklehead. No, I promise I'll keep still. I'll bring stuff to entertain me. Anything. His mom was like, oh, well, we can figure out. Oh, no, he's fine. He can come along. I'm like, oh, this is starting to look like Friday the 13th, you know. So now they all going along to look for the professor. They didn't brought the girl in, you know, because she liked him. They using her to use the car, and she came along and had to bring her sister and somebody else's child along with them on this journey to this cave to see if their professor is okay, right? And to test this myth. And so they had like a cave where you go like hiking and stuff, and they climb mountains. They had all that gear because they kind of heard about, you know, there were like theories about it. Okay, we're going to go down there just in case there's a drop. We're going to secure ourselves out here, and everybody's going to have a cord to tie to them so we can pull ourselves back out, because some people say if you get in there, you can't get back out. So they thought they had thought this through by being able to pull themselves out, right? So what happened was they said, okay, we're going to go in here. We're just going to go maybe about 20, 30 minutes, definitely no more than an hour. Look, they told the little kid to sit out here. I'm like, how you leave your 12-year-old boy sitting out there? I mean, I get it. We're responsible for you. We can't take you down into the cave if something happened, right? But they was far out enough to where reception wasn't really that good anyway. And it was like, there were no houses or anything, right? So anyway, make a long story short, they get down there in the cave. And first, the professor, when he went down there, he seen this gentleman down there like standing still holding this lantern in a dark cave, right? And so the cave was dark. He holding this lantern and he see the light, but it seemed like this guy was not moving. And it seemed like there was this like transparent water covering him. So I'm like, what is that? And so when he got close to it, he touched it a little bit. He was like, ooh, because it was like, I don't know, it was like another whole dimension. But it look, you can walk into it, but you can feel the difference that it made. What happened was, it was a time warp, right? That right there, it was showing you that there was, it changed, the time changed right there. And so the guy, come to find out, the guy who had been standing there holding this lantern was somebody who had been there for decades, you know, and this part of the time warp was like slow motion. You know, so you speak, it's like you moving, like I'm talking normal. It's like once you get in there, it's like, slowed down time, right? And it was going a lot slower than that. And he went in to find out, he actually went in to find his parents, and they were still there. Matter of fact, they hadn't aged a bit. But to kind of speed up the story a little bit, the kids went in, left the young kid out there. They got in there. And just as dumb, they went right through it too, and they got stuck in there. But as they moved, they kind of made it through. And then they fell down into the hole, of which they couldn't get out. But what happened was, it seemed like the rope that they had attached to them, it seemed like somebody had cut it. I'm like, see, shenanigans going on. You know, somebody done cut the rope. They definitely not going to be able to get out of that cave. But what happened was, and they noticed when they looked up, it seemed like they said, what is that flashing light up there? They didn't realize the portion that they had fallen into, it sped up time. So they thought somebody had cut the rope when nobody actually had cut the rope. It was time speeding up. And they was like, once they realized it towards the middle of the movie, they was like, wait a minute, that's the sun passing. Those are days. And so they began to calculate what had happened. So outside, the little boy, he had a camera, he was recording stuff, and he was having he was recording videos. He was trying to contact his parents, somebody, because they had been going extremely long down into the evening and stuff, and it was night. So they were showing them in the cave, and it was going back showing the boy, okay, they've been going 5 hours now, the sun is going down, I'm kind of scared, I got snacks, but I'm gonna lock myself in the truck. And you know, so it goes back to them, and they're steady trying to get out. But then they time warp. Yes, thank you, Trina, thank you. It's called Time Warp. If you get a chance, go watch that movie, right? And they had to talking about that because it seemed like how fast the days are going. But they realized then that it wasn't just the sun that was passing, it was days. It was like it seemed like every I want to say like every 30 seconds, it was like that light passed. They was like, wait a minute, how many times has that passed? How many days have we been down here? Until they tried to go up this particular portion, and they found out that it wasn't actually days. it was years that had been passing, right? Oh my gosh, y'all, it gets so much more crazy. But then it goes back and it shows how when the boy finally tried to come down into the hole, he also had a rope because he watched them. So he tried to go down to the hole, the same hole, and the same thing happened to him. It seemed like somebody had cut his rope, but it was time that was passing, right? But when he fell, they had the thing, and he was like, help me, help me. And they didn't realize it was him. And he said his name, so they thought he was in trouble. They thought somebody was like playing, they had got him or something. But come to find out, the little boy was actually down there in the hole too. And time had passed. And so when they finally made it through the cave, and there was some people that had been down there, they found the professor in there. And when you go look at the back out there at the professors, they came out of one end of the cave. They was like, oh, here's an opening. But when they went out, it was all overgrown, like decades had passed, and they found the professor's van. And the professor's van looked like he had been gone like 30 years. His van was all overgrown with grass and bush and all this stuff. It was crazy. It was a really good movie. If you get a chance to watch it, but it goes into different time warps, different things where time slows down. So when they were actually being rescued out of there, one of the girls had gotten free, and when she got out the hole, it was like another opening, and it was like water, and it seemed like aliens had come down and snatched her up, but it wasn't really aliens for real. It was like this machine, because through this particular portal, it was the future, and they had pulled her out. But what happened was, when they pulled her out, it sped up time a lot faster, but it left the ones who was in the hole down in like a dimension where time moves slow. So it was like they had all the time in the world to come back and save them, because they realized there was danger. It was like cave people who had been down there like literally from the Stone Age days. They were like cave people, so they were running into them, and they was trying to kill them and stuff. The professor, yes, that's right, Trina. Yes, yes. The professor's parents went looking for healing water for his sister, and he found his little sister, because she was stuck in that slow time warp. She was still the same age. She was like 5 years old. She was still the same age down there. I remember because they had went down there, they wanted to take her, put her in the healing water, but they did. There were actually healing waters down there. So one of the girls had broken her foot, her like ankle, falling down in there. The little boy had actually, that was him, that come to find out that was actually him. He had fallen down and he had broken his neck, so he was calling for help. So when they found him, they actually went into the healing waters, and the waters actually restored you. Whatever was messed up about you, whatever was undone, was done again. Like you were healed 100%, like completely. And depending on how bad your disease or your even death was, depending on how long it actually was until you were revived. So it even went, by the time they had actually gotten to the little boy and realized that it was him calling on the thing, because they realized like a different time he had the camcorder fell down there too. So they were watching the camcorder, and they realized that he was out there waiting for them for weeks. And that's when he decided he's going to go down there. Actually, I think about maybe like a whole week had elapsed before he got enough courage to actually go down there himself. So that boy had been out there by himself with just snacks night and day for weeks. For at least a week, before he went down there. But anyway, everything that was broken about them, they realized the water was healing. They got in it, healed. One of the boys had got stabbed by one of the cavemen with a rock, and he died. They put him in the water, and then they put the little boy in the water, and finally after a little while he was healed. And then the girl who actually got out the cave, she came back, and they had some kind of technology where they had pulled her through. And they actually sent it down and grabbed all of them out, even the professor and the little girl and the parents and everything. But they left the cave people down there. But it was a really, really interesting movie. It really was. I know that's not what y'all hear for today. But I started thinking about it when I started thinking about how fast time is moving. And I don't really understand how that works. So I kind of liken it to that movie just a little bit. But it shows different time warps where time has sped up extremely fast, where it seems to go back in the past, and also where it slows down and kind of holds you in the moment forever, right? It's weird, but if you get a chance, just watch it. It's called Time Warp, and it's on Netflix. It's free. So But yeah, I figured that was a good share to kind of show it, but it seemed like we're in that, like, it's not as fast as the sped up portion of time, but it seemed like it's something similar is kind of happening, so to speak. It's weird. Okay, but anyway, y'all, happy Friday. That was a very long introduction about a movie, about time. Okay. It is Friday, January the 22nd, 2021, day 57 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 726. Remember, the count is without the Sabbath days and the Sabbath feast days added in where we rest, right? Okay, so today we're reading Leviticus 3, 4, and 5, and then we'll pick up Legends of the Jews. So let's go ahead and start with the Shema real quick. Yeah, so if you get a chance, if y'all not doing anything this weekend, it's a good movie to watch over the weekend. It really is. Okay. Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, hear, listen, pay attention. Yahuwah, our God, He is one God. And you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as He has commanded us. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and over here. Minimize this. Okay. All right. Just a little bit more so I can see that. Okay, y'all. Leviticus chapter 3. If you present, let me make sure that's up. Okay. If you present an animal from the herd as a peace offering to Yahuwah, it may be a male or a female, but it must have no defects. Lay your hand on the animal's head and slaughter it at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then Aaron's sons, the priest, will splatter its blood against all the sides of the altar. The priest must present part of this peace offering as a special gift to Yahuwah. This includes all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys, and the fat around them near the loins, and the long lobe of the river. These must be removed with the kidneys, and Aaron's sons will burn them on top of the burnt offering on the wood burning on the altar. It is a special gift, a pleasing aroma to Yahuwah. I'm not sure if y'all remember last time when we were going through Leviticus, when I was talking about the sacrifices and stuff, right? I said I believe we are missing a portion about these sacrifices. Sure enough, we were. But I'm not going to get into it this time. I'm just going to read it through like it says here, simply for the fact I just got the information. It's in the book of remembrance of Enoch, where it goes into some of the sacrifices and in particularly why they're done, right? And it's okay. If you get the book, start reading through it and you will see. But I need to really go through it. I was like, something, we're missing something about this. Like, we're really missing something about this. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I found I don't know if it's all the missing pieces of this, But once I really get that down, it may not be until after we get around to Leviticus again to when I can share that, because I want to be able to. And what we'll probably do when we get to that, I'll probably have it all highlighted and marked up by that time to where I can pull it out, and after we read it here, we'll pull it from there, kind of like we're doing with the Legends of the Jews. But I just want to make mention of that, just in case you guys, if you haven't gotten the Book of Remembrance of Enoch, if you haven't gotten it yet, to go ahead and get that and start kind of reading that. Yeah, it's 555 pages, but it's really good information that fills in portions where the Legends of the Jews is not filling in portions, and some of the other manuscripts. It's like everything has been separated, and so you got to get the missing pieces, like kind of like National Treasure, where they finding missing pieces. And his father was like, "It's another clue. It's another clue." Some people's like, "Oh, this is too much. It's too many pieces. Is this even true?" And he was on a mission. He said, "All this is absolutely true. We got to get the missing pieces, you know." So I believe the Book of Remembrance is just a missing piece, you know. So I stopped kind of arguing with people on stuff where I realized we're lacking information, because some people will go on that says this, boom, boom. I said, "Oh, I know it says that, but we're missing information." And if you read it enough, you will see something doesn't quite add up. Something is missing. Not that this is wrong, but there is something missing from this that gives us the full understanding of this, right? So I just wanted to bring that out, simply because I'm going through it now as I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh shoot. And a part of it I mentioned before, the other nations surrounding Israel were doing blood sacrifices, human and animal, right? And it kind of goes into detail on some gory stuff that they were doing, specifically with sacrifices, right? And what they were doing with animals that Yahuwah considers unclean. That's why he said, do not consume unclean animals. It's crazy what happens, you know. And this is nothing for those who eat meat, but okay, let me say it like this. When you eat something with I want to make sure I word this right. It's almost like when you eat something that had like life and spirit in it, you almost kind of began to take on that nature that they carried when they were alive. That's the best way I know how to explain it at this moment, y'all. That's the best way. So, but I definitely want to say that there's definitely more to these sacrifices and stuff that I believe should have been canonized and should have been added to this. And a lot of these unnecessary arguments is going on between our brethren all across the world and on YouTube that argue about stuff like this. It'll be shut down immediately. Like there would be no argument about this, you know. So, okay, I just wanted to say that. Okay. Verse 6 of Leviticus chapter 3. If you present an animal from the flock as a peace offering to Yahuwah, it may be male or female, but it must have no defects. If you present a sheep as your offering, bring it to Yahuwah, lay your hand on its head, and slaughter it in front of the tabernacle. Aaron's sons will then splatter the sheep's blood against all the sides of the altar. The priest must present the fat of this peace offering as a special gift to Yahuwah. This includes the fat of the broad tail cut off near the backbone, all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys, and the fat around them near the loins and the long lobe of the river. Some fish is unclean. Yes, like, and here's a favorite one, like we used to eat all the time because we lived in Illinois for a while, right? So you make spaghetti, you gotta fry you some catfish, right? Oh, when I found out it was unclean, I was like, oh, we are heathens. Father, forgive us for every piece of catfish that passed through our lips. Yes, there are some fish that is unclean. Okay. Remember, fish, if you're going to eat it, it must have fins and scales, right? I'm going to just throw this out here too, but y'all probably already know that shrimp is unclean too. Okay. If you present a goat as your offering, bring it to Yahuwah, lay your hand on its head and slaughter it in front of the tabernacle. Aaron's sons will then splatter the goat's blood against all sides of the altar. The priest must present part of this offering as a special gift to Yahuwah. This includes all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys, and the fat around them near the loins and the long lobe of the liver. These must be removed with the kidneys, and the priest will burn them on the altar. It is a special gift of food, a pleasing aroma to Yahuwah. All the fat belongs to Yahuwah. You must never eat any fat or blood. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. And wherever you live is in captivity and outside of captivity, y'all. In captivity and outside of captivity, right? Yeah, they're bottom feeders. You already know about shrimp. Okay, crabs, lobsters, unclean to you. Absolutely right. Like, we was big seafood family, seafood bulls and crabs and all. Like, come on. It's like, what? Like, Father, dost thou have no pity on thy creation? What is we gonna eat? This is all we eat. Yeah, like, seriously though. But when I decided that, I'm like, you know what, it says this, and I'm sure it says this for a reason. And I wasn't really, at that time, I wasn't really big on, like, medical stuff. But when I got pregnant with Joshua, he's 10 years old now. And my morning sickness has always been really bad anyway. Like, I was sick with Joshua. Like, I had to go to the hospital a few times because I was so dehydrated and I couldn't keep anything down, you know. So it was during that time, about 10 years ago, that I started looking into how to, for one, I was trying to figure out how to circumvent morning sickness, right? Because I didn't just have it like the first trimester. I was sick the entire pregnancy. I was like, we're not doing this for a third time, you know. So that's when I started looking into that, and they told me, Miss Murphy, you got gestational diabetes and your sugar's so high, you probably got diabetes for real. It's probably not just gestational. So during that time, and it was giving me the metformin and stuff, and so they gave it to me 1 week. I took it for a week, and it came back, and they said my sugar still hadn't dropped. I was like, oh no, we can't do this. I'm not losing limbs or nothing. And what happened was, one morning I had a doctor's appointment. I got into the elevator, and as I was getting into the elevator, somebody came around the corner with this African American woman, and she had they pushed her in there, but this woman had not just, but recently, like within like the last couple months, had gotten both of her legs amputated, right? And of course, when I see it, of course, my you know, I'm like, you know, I'm trying to keep a straight face, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, first thing to go to through your head, like, oh my gosh, what happens? And she was the sweetest lady. She said, how you doing, baby? You know, I was like, I'm doing good. She's like, how many months are you? Because I was showing a little bit, and you know, so she got talking. She said, yeah, baby. She said, take care. And she actually offered the information while her legs were gone, right? She got her legs amputated because of diabetes. She lost her limbs because she couldn't control her. And she was forthcoming with that, right? And that was probably also divine intervention by Yah himself to talk to me, because I love all kinds of sweets and starches and everything. I know I ain't the skinniest thing now. Like, I'm a junk food vegan, but I'm working on getting rid of all that processed stuff, because it's a little more healthier, but it's just as bad. It'll still pack the weight on you, right? So I was like, yeah, I gotta get more fresh fruits and veggies and stuff in my diet, right? But yeah, she was the one. Like, I see that woman's face, like it. Look, this is a direct result of us not being able to control this motion right here, the hand to mouth motion. I want no parts of that. I want no parts of that. And it was from that time I actually started researching. I'm like, okay, how do I get rid of this naturally? What can I do to bring my body back to its natural state? And that's when I started coming across like a plant-based lifestyle and eating. So I was like, oh yes, and I like consumed that information like daily for like a week, and I was like, I'm not taking any more of this medicine. They say it's not gonna hurt my baby. I was like, but I don't believe them. You know, I was like, all pharmaceuticals have some type of, it fixes one thing, but then it's messing up something else. I was like, I ain't going that route. I never liked to swallow pills anyway. So what I did was I completely stopped taking the medicine altogether. You know, so I went back 2 weeks later. She checked my blood and stuff. She's like, oh. She said, oh, I see it's working. And I just looked. I didn't say anything, you know, because I had stopped taking the medicine. And she said, okay. She said, keep on taking it. And I didn't say anything to her at that doctor's appointment, you know. So I kept on with the, you know, I just kind of agreed with her, whatever. But I was keeping track of it. And so I kept on not taking the medicine and just began to adjust my diet, you know, eating more fresh fruits and vegetables. And I came across this company called Nature's Pearl with the muscadine grape seed or whatever, and had even joined the company selling it and stuff because it was working so good. And it killed my morning sickness. It was whatever it was I was lacking in my body, the muscadine grape helped to fix it, you know. So whatever it was. And I was also having some other little female issues and stuff, but when I went plant-based, all those things began to reverse on their own, right? So I'm like, So the next time I went back to the doctor, she said, okay, she said, it should be about time for your review. I said, no, it's not. I said, I haven't taken this medicine for 2 doctor's visits. I said, that medicine didn't do anything for me. I said, the first time I took it and I came back in, you tested, it didn't help my blood sugar or anything. I said, but I completely put it away. I said, I didn't tell you this last time because I didn't know what you was going to say. I just needed to test it a little bit longer. I said, but I haven't taken that medicine since back then. I said, I simply changed what I was eating, you know, and that's what's caused my blood sugar to go down. I said, why didn't you tell me all I had to do was change my diet? Granted, we hear it, but she didn't say that to me. I said, why didn't you tell me all I had to do was change my diet? Why did you just give me medicine? You know, she said, well, honestly, Miss Murphy, she said, I'm gonna be honest with you. She said, and she was a nice doctor. She was a Caucasian doctor, whatever. She said, I'm gonna be honest with you, Miss Murphy. She said, because most people don't follow our directions and they don't change their diet. They continue eating how they've been eating. So we just give them the medicine, you know. I said, well, shouldn't it have been my choice? Shouldn't you have at least mentioned that it's a possibility that if I change my diet, this could reverse? She said, just keep doing what you're doing. And I was heated with her, but I was glad she was honest with me. But I tell anybody, I'm like, listen, y'all, if you're not too far gone in your eating habits, learn how to eat a natural diet, because things that are going wrong with you, it can reverse. If you give your body what it was designed to have, your body will love you and it will thrive and it will work for you, you know. So, and everything, if you got stuff going on, like I said, if it's not too far gone where you actually need intervention from actual drugs or outside help, food will heal you. Let food be thy medicine. That's something I found that is truth through and through. And even some things where you're really far gone, you just have to have like a you probably have to use like natural tinctures and stuff and some like herbal teas that are really potent to help kind of slow some things. What happens is the first thing you need to cleanse is your lymphatic system. Because if your lymphatic system is dirty and it's blocking up everything, nothing else can work properly. Nothing can filter properly and push out the proper nutrients to where it needs to be. So a lot of people find out when they start, when they getting sick, their lymph nodes, their lymphatic system is clogged up. And that's the first thing. If you talk to any natural let's not say healer, but any holistic herbalist, a master herbalist, they'll tell you that your lymphatic system is the first thing you must cleanse out. Dr. Sebi taught that. Also, I'm not sure if you ever heard of YAH'KI. You can find a lot of his videos. Just in case y'all watching this, just in case you're dealing with something, you can go to his like YouTube videos or his website. His name is YAH'KI, Y-A-H, like apostrophe K-I, YAH'KI, Y-A-H-K-I. You can put that in, YAH'KI Awaken, and you come across all his stuff. And I'll share the link, just in case some of y'all need that. YAH'KI. But yeah, he gives you a lot of good information, and he has products and stuff. I use some of his products, his bitters and stuff. It's really, really good, you know. So just in case y'all got issues going on. Yeah, that's true. A lot of people, they just want to take a pill and keep living the way they want to. Yeah, YAH'KI set it up. Yes, he did. Yes, you watch him. Okay. Yes. But yeah, I mean that. I know I'm not really getting off of talking about this right here. But a lot of people, they want to live the way they want to live and still be able to live like a full productive life and do whatever they want to do, right? And like my sister just said, they just want to pop a pill and continue going. And that's a lot of time why the doctor, they just prescribe you medicine, because you don't want to you don't want an interruption to your current lifestyle. You know, if you want to grow, you want to stay healthy, you have to be responsible, right? And that's what we found as we return to Yahuwah's laws, statutes, and commands. It causes us to have to make a choice, right? Based on how we grew up and what we were taught. You know, it's there to help us make good choices and choose life. Yahuwah said, I've set life and death before you, and I'm going to help you out. Listen, choose life. Choose life. He said you will live longer. This is the way you should walk. This is the path of life. You know, some people like the easy road. Some people like the easy road. You know, sometimes I like the easy road, but I try to make myself listen. A lot of people go down there, and that may end up bad for you. So it's like taking shortcuts, right? I guess it's okay to take. Listen to what I'm saying. I guess it's okay to take a shortcut if you know about a shortcut, if you're short on time. Granted that you understand the manual way, and the shortcut is not always your daily course of action, right? Okay, so like this, let me give an example. Sweet potatoes, right? If you make yams, a lot of times, if people who love to cook, you don't get the same taste from homemade. Then you can kind of doctor it up a little bit, but you can take shortcuts, and you can kind of get the yams in a can and doctor it up and kind of make it taste similar to the actual fresh yams that you got to peel the yams and got to slice them up and put all the stuff on it. Then you do it manually, right? Anybody can tell anybody who's ever had homemade yams versus the shortcut yams can clearly tell the difference, right? You can clearly tell the difference. There's more love this way. Granted, it's a little more labor intensive, and this is probably, although it's yams, it's probably a little more healthier, you know. But as long as the shortcut is not your daily course of action, I guess it's okay if you're short on time, if it's not going to lead somebody. I hope I'm saying that right. If it's not going to lead somebody off, like if you have somebody following you, you probably should never take a shortcut unless your lives are in danger. You get what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. I hope I explained it the right way. But your daily course of action should be the manual way, because if you make that the manual way your daily course of action, it will become your daily course of action. You will get so much more efficient in the manual way, and you'll always do it. It's like you're following the manual like clockwork. Each time. It's just like when I read the Shema or when I read the blessing, like, because I realized that at the beginning when I was doing it, I remember it, but I realized sometimes when my children come in here and they're kind of loud, sometimes they may throw me off and I may lose my train of thought, and I'll skip a line from the blessing. And it was like Yahuwah was like, just read from it every single time. That's why I have it ready, and I'll read from it. Although I can recite it. Like when my husband is leaving out or whatever, sometimes I'll just recite it, or I can recite it because I memorized it. But for the sake of not being thrown off while I'm standing my post, I'll just pull it up and I'll read from it. And it's like clockwork every single time. You know, y'all hear it the same way every single time. It's done the same way every single time. You know, so it's not like I'm adding to or I'm missing, or because my kids didn't throw me off. I'm reading from the manual every single time. So you hear the same thing every single time. You get it? You know, so don't take shortcuts, y'all. All right. Chapter 4. I know that was kind of, but I was just answering a question. All right. Don't take shortcuts. Yes. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. This is how you are to deal with those who unintentionally sin by doing anything that violates one of Yahuwah's commands. If the high priest sins, bringing guilt upon the entire community, he must give a sin offering for the sin he has committed. He must present to Yahuwah a young bull with no defects. He must bring the bull to Yahuwah at the entrance of the tabernacle, lay his hand on the bull's head, and slaughter it before Yahuwah. The high priest will then take some of the bull's blood into the tabernacle, dip his finger into the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before Yahuwah in the front of the inner curtain of the sanctuary. The priest will then put some of the blood on the horns of the altar for fragrant incense that stands in Yahuwah's presence inside the tabernacle. He will pour out the rest of the bull's blood at the base of the altar for burning offerings at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then the priest must remove all the fat of the bull to be offered as a sin offering. This includes all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys, and the fat around them near the loins and the long lobe of the liver. He must remove these along with the kidneys, just as he does with cattle offered as a peace offering, and burn them on the altar of burnt offerings. But he must take whatever is left of the bull, its hide, meat, head, legs, internal organs, and dung, and carry it away to a place outside the camp that is ceremonially clean, the place where ashes are dumped. There, on the heap ash, he will burn it on a wood fire. If the entire community of Israel sins by violating one of Yahuwah's commands, but the people don't realize it, they are still guilty. When they become aware of their sin, the people must bring a young bull as an offering for their sin and present it before the tabernacle. The elders of the community must then lay their hand on the bull's head and slaughter it before Yahuwah. The high priest will then take some of the bull's blood into the tabernacle, dip his finger into the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before Yahuwah in front of the inner curtain. He will then put some of the blood on the horns of the altar for fragrant incense that stands in Yahuwah's presence inside the tabernacle. He will pour the rest of the blood at the base of the altar for burnt offerings at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then the priest must remove all the animal's fat and burn it on the altar, just as he does with the bull offered as a sin offering for the high priest. Through this process, the priest will purify the people, making them right with Yahuwah, and they will be forgiven. Then the priest must take what is left of the bull and carry it outside of the camp and burn it there, just as is done with the sin offering for the high priest. This offering is for the sin of the entire congregation of Israel. If one of Israel's leaders sinned by violating one of the commands of Yahuwah, but he hasn't realized it, he is still guilty. When he becomes aware of his sin, he must bring as his offering a male goat with no defects. He must lay his hand on the goat's head and slaughter it at the place where burnt offerings are slaughtered before Yahuwah. This is an offering for his sin. The priest then will dip his finger in the blood of the sin offering and put it on the horns of the altar for burnt offerings. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he must burn all the goat's fat on the altar, just as he does with the peace offering. Through this process, the priest will purify the leader from his sin, making him right with Yahuwah, and he will be forgiven. If any of the common people sin by violating one of Yahuwah's commands, but they don't realize it, they are still guilty. When they become aware of their sin, they must bring an offering for their sin, a female goat with no defects. They must lay a hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it at the place where the burnt offerings are slaughtered. Y'all see the common theme here? It's people who sin unintentionally, right? These are for unintentional sins. Like, there was nothing that you could offer for an intentional sin, right? Yahuwah said you simply must repent. Like, but if you had stolen something from somebody, you had to restore what you had stolen or broken, things like that. But something else like intentional, if what you did wasn't like premeditated murder, and you died, like, you had to repent for everything else. Like, but there was no offering, no blood offering for intentional sins, or your blood for the blood of another. But for other like intentional sins, Yahuwah said you simply got to come to me and you got to repent. And I think a lot of people miss that part, why they don't read through the Old Testament, right? They don't make the connection, so they can't tell when leaven has been added to the loaf, right? Oh, that's so good. They must lay a hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it at the place where burnt offerings are slaughtered. Then the priest will dip his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar for burnt offerings. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he must remove all the goat's fat, just as he does with the fat of the peace offering. He will burn the fat on the altar, and it will be a pleasing aroma to Yahuwah. Through this process, the priest will purify the people, making them right with Yahuwah, and they will be forgiven. If the people bring a sheep as their sin offering, it must be a female with no defects. They must lay a hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it at the place where the burnt offerings are slaughtered. Then the priest will dip his finger into the blood of the sin offering and put it on the horns of the altar for burnt offerings. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he must remove all the sheep's fat, just as he does with the fat of a sheep presented as a peace offering. He will burn the fat on the altar on top of the special gifts presented to Yahuwah. Through this process, the priest will purify the people from their sin, making them right with Yahuwah, and they will be forgiven. All right, y'all, last chapter for the day, and here, Leviticus chapter 5. If you are called to testify about something you have seen or that you know about, it is simple to refuse to testify, and you will be punished for your sin. Or suppose you unknowingly touch something that is ceremonially unclean, such as the carcass of an unclean animal. When you realize what you have done, you must admit your defilement and your guilt. This is true whether it is a wild animal, a domestic animal, or an animal that scurries along the ground. Or suppose you unknowingly touch something that makes a person unclean. When you realize what you have done, you must admit your guilt. Or suppose you make a foolish vow of any kind, whether its purpose is for good or bad. When you realize it is foolish, you must admit your guilt. When you become aware of your guilt in any of these ways, you must confess your sin. Then you must bring to Yahuwah as a penalty for your sin a female from the flock, either a sheep or a goat. This is a sin offering with which the priest will purify you from your sin, making you right with Yahuwah. But if you cannot afford to bring a sheep, you may bring to Yahuwah 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons as the penalty for your sin. One of the birds will be for a sin offering, the other for a burnt offering. You must bring them to the priest, who will present the first bird as a sin offering. He will wring its neck, but without severing its head from its body. Then he will sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering against the sides of the altar, and the rest of the blood will be drained out at the base of the altar. It is an offering for sin. The priest will then prepare a second bird as a burnt offering, following all the procedures that have been prescribed. Through this process, the priest will purify you from your sin, making you right with Yahuwah, and you will be forgiven. If you cannot afford to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, you may bring 2 quarts of choice flour for your sin offering. It is a peace offering for your sin. You must not moisten it with olive oil or put any frankincense on it. Take the flour to the priest, who will scoop out a handful as a representative portion. He will burn it on the altar on top of the special gifts presented to Yahuwah. It is an offering for sin. Through this process, the priest will purify those who are guilty of any of these sins, making them right with Yahuwah, and they will be forgiven. The rest of the flour will belong to the priest, just as with the grain offering. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, if one of you commits a sin by unintentionally defiling Yahuwah's sacred property, you must bring a guilt offering to Yahuwah. The offering must be your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of equal value with silver, as measured by the weight of the sanctuary shekel. You must make restitution for the sacred property you have harmed by paying for the loss, plus an additional 20%. When you give the payment to the priest, he will purify you with the ram sacrifice as a guilt offering, making you right with Yahuwah, and you will be forgiven. Suppose you sin by violating one of Yahuwah's commands. Even if you are unaware of what you have done, you will be guilty, and you will be punished for your sin. For a guilt offering, you must bring to the priest your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of equal value. Through this process, the priest will purify you from your unintentional sin, making you right with Yahuwah, and you will be forgiven. This is a guilt offering, for you have been guilty of an offense against Yahuwah. And that is our reading there in Leviticus. We're going to hop right on over here to Legends of the Jews. But also, guys, you'll also remember that by doing this, what I was saying earlier, that as we begin to keep Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commands, it causes us to take responsibility for our own life. At least that's what it was designed to do. You know, it causes us to now stop and begin to think about things we do and think about the choices we make and thinking about the repercussions that could possibly happen, not just to us, but all those who are connected to us and our family as well. All right, babe. Love you. Drive safe. So it causes us to now to have to make a choice. Do I do what's right, or do I continue doing what I now know is wrong? Like, I just found out that I have unintentionally been sinning against the Most High. Now, I must confess my sin. Oh, Father, forgive me. Just like I tell you, when we was eating unclean meats, I was like, oh my gosh, Father, forgive us. We didn't know. We got to confess our sin. And then you have to begin to do what is right, right? Yes, baby girl. But also those things we can see that, you know, it has some merit to it, because when you keep eating unclean meats, it wreaks havoc on the body, you know, and ultimately that's what Yahuwah is teaching us. He's teaching us how to care for our bodies, how to live a long life, because if you're eating things that's eventually going to lead you to death, you know, I don't even know what to say. People just make that, they just make the decision to just continue going in the direction that they know is going to lead them to death. But Yahuwah says, choose life. And it causes, like I said, it causes us to have to become responsible for our own lives, right? And begin to do what's right. And when we begin to make a habit of choosing to do what's right, we set the proper examples for our children, and they'll watch us walk in doing what's right. Greetings. Okay, y'all, so we're in volume 3 of Legends of the Jews, page 249. If you have the smaller book, it's volume 3, and it's the section entitled The Passage Through the Red Sea. All right, so we got time to read this one section today. Okay, all right, we'll see how fast I get through it. On the morning after the eventful night, the sea was not yet made dry land. The Israelites, full of trust in Yahuwah, were ready to cast themselves into the waters. Remember, they've driven to the Red Sea. They're right there. They have no way out. Animals on both sides, and you got Pharaoh and his army right there behind them. But Yahuwah has separated them by this last day of darkness, right? Okay. The tribes contended with one another for the honor of being the first to jump. Like, it was like, it is the water death for us. Like, they didn't know what Yah was about to do. Without awaiting the outcome of the wordy strife, the tribe of Benjamin sprang in, and the princes of Judah were so incensed that having been deprived of preeminence and danger, that they pelted the Benjamites with stones. Yahuwah knew that the Judeans and the Benjamites were animated by a praiseworthy purpose. Let me read that again. And remember, Yahuwah left the one tribe to Judah. It was Judah and Benjamin. Judah is a lion and Benjamin is a ravening wolf, and he put them both together. He said, these two, I'm going to leave you Benjamin. And you got the Levites sprinkled in the midst of them, right? Listen. Let me read that again. I'm going to just read it again. On the morning after the eventful night, though the sea was not yet made dry land, the Israelites, full of the trust in Yahuwah, were ready to cast themselves into its waters. The tribes contended with one another for the honor of being the first to jump. Without awaiting the outcome of the wordy strife, the tribe of Benjamin sprang in, and the princes of Judah were so incensed that having been deprived of preeminence and danger, that they pelted the Benjamites with stones. Yahuwah knew that the Judeans and the Benjamites were animated by a praiseworthy purpose. The ones, like the others, desired but to magnify the name of Yahuwah, and he rewarded both tribes. In Benjamin's allotment, the Shekinah took up her residence, and the royalty of Israel was conferred upon Judah. When Yahuwah saw that the two tribes in the waves of the sea, he called upon Moses and said, my beloved are in danger of drowning, and thou standest by and prayest? Bid Israel to go forward and lift up thy rod over the sea and divide it. Thus it happened, and Israel passed through the sea with its water cleft in twain. The dividing of the sea was but the first of 10 miracles connected with the passage of the Israelites through it. The others were that the waters united in a vault above their heads. 12 paths opened up, one for each of the tribes. The water became transparent as glass, and each tribe could see the other. The soil underfoot was dry, but it changed into clay when the Egyptians stepped onto it. The walls of water transformed into rocks against which the Egyptians were thrown and dashed to death, while before the Israelites could slake their thirst. And finally, the 10th wonder, that this drinking water was congealed in the heart of the sea as soon as it satisfied their need. And there were other miracles besides. The sea yielded the Israelites whatever their hearts desired. If a child cried as it lay in the arms of its mother, she needed but to stretch out her hand and pluck an apple or some fruit and quiet it. The waters were piled up to the height of 1,600 miles. I need to adjust that. The waters were piled up to the height of 1,600 miles, and they could be seen by all the nations of the earth. The great wonder of Israel's passing through the sea took place in the presence of the 3 fathers and the 6 mothers, for Yahuwah had fetched them out of their graves to the shores of the Red Sea to be witnesses of the marvelous deeds wrought in behalf of their children. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this second gathering of Yahuwah gathering us from the 4 corners of the earth. Wonderful as were the miracles connected with the rescue of the Israelites from the waters of the sea, those performed when the Egyptians were drowned were no less remarkable. First of all, Yahuwah felt called upon to defend Israel's cause before Uzzah, the angel of the Egyptians, who would not allow his people to perish in the waters of the sea. He appeared on the spot at the very moment when Yahuwah wanted to drown the Egyptians, and he spake, O Lord of the world, thou art called just and upright, and before thee there is no wrong, no forgetting, no respecting of persons. So this angel Uzzah was the angel of Egypt. Remember, who is the angel of Israel? Like, this is like each nation literally has an angel set over it. We talked about this some weeks ago, right? Who is the angel set over Israel? If you don't know, just for the sake of time, I tell you, it's the archangel Michael, right? And it said in those days in the book of Daniel that Michael will stand up for Israel, right? So we know what's going to happen again. The archangel Michael, the angel over Israel, will stand up for us, right? And begin to fight. So this is what's happening when Yahuwah is about to wipe out the Egyptians. The angel that set over the Egyptians is Uzzah. Listen, I'm going to go back just in case you weren't paying attention. Listen. Wonderful as were the miracles connected with the rescue of the Israelites from the waters of the sea, those performed when the Egyptians were drowned were no less remarkable. First of all, Yahuwah felt called upon to defend Israel's cause before Uzzah, the angel of the Egyptians, who would not allow his people to perish in the waters of the sea. He appeared on the spot at the very moment when Yahuwah wanted to drown the Egyptians, and he spake, O Lord of the world, thou art called just and upright, and before thee there is no wrong, no forgetting, no respecting of persons. Why then dost thou desire to make my children perish in the sea? So Uzzah, the angel of the Egyptians, is interceding for the Egyptians, the ones who held Yahuwah's people in bondage. He said, wait, Father, you are most holy. Why are you causing my people, my children, to drown? Listen. O Lord of the world, thou art called just and upright. Before thee there is no wrong, no forgetting, no respecting of persons. Why then dost thou desire to make my children perish in the sea? Canst thou say that my children drowned or slew a single one of thine? If it be on account of the rigorous slavery that my children imposed upon Israel, then consider that thy children have received their wages, and that they took their silver and gold vessels from them. Then Yahuwah convoked all the members of his celestial family, and he spake to the angel host, Judge ye in truth between me and yonder Uzzah, the angel of the Egyptians. At the first I brought a famine upon his people, and I appointed my friend Joseph over them, who saved them through his sagacity, and they all became his slaves. Then my children went down into their land as strangers, in consequence of the famine, and they made the children of Israel to serve with rigor in all manner of hard work there is in the world. They groan on account of their bitter service, and their cry rose up to me. And I sent Moses and Aaron, my faithful messengers, to Pharaoh. When they came before the king of Egypt, they spake to him, Thus saith Yahuwah, the God of Israel, Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. In the presence of the kings of the east and of the west, the sinner began to boast, saying, Who is the Lord, that I shall hearken unto his voice to let Israel go? Why cometh he not before me, like all the kings of the world? And why doth he not bring me a present like the others? This God of whom you speak, I know him not. Wait and let me search my list to see whether I can find his name. Yahuwah is rolling off. He said, hold on. Just in case you weren't present, let me just tell you what has happened from the beginning of time. And Yahuwah started rolling off. He convened the whole, everybody, family meeting. Everybody listen. Others say I'm trying to kill his people. Listen, let's go. Should I not take up the cause of Israel? Give me the list. Boom, boom, boom. And Yahuwah is reading off the list. And he has the whole celestial family there. It's like they're having a court session. The court has convened on this matter right here is what about to take place at the Red Sea. And Yahuwah has brought out all he kept notes of everything. And this is what's happening right here. Wait, let me search my list and see whether I can find his name. But his servant said, We have heard that he is the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings. Right? They called Yahuwah, the God of the universe, the son of ancient kings. He said, they even called me the son. He said, am I not the creator? And he even addressed Pharaoh. He said, you call me a son? He said, I created all. I am not a son. Listen. Then Pharaoh asked my messengers, what are the works of this God? And they replied, He is the God of gods, the Lord of lords, who created the heaven and the earth. But Pharaoh doubted their words and said, There is no God in all the world that can accomplish such works besides me. For I made myself, and I made the Nile River. Because he denied me, thus I sent 10 plagues upon him, and he was compelled to let my children go. Yet, in spite of all, he did not leave off from his wicked ways, and he tried to bring them back under his bondage. Now, seeing that all this has happened to him, and that he will not acknowledge me as God and Lord, does he not deserve to be drowned in the sea with his host? And the angel's like, You make a compelling point, y'all. The celestial family called out when Yahuwah had ended his defense, Thou hast every right to drown him in the sea. Uzzah heard their verdict, and he said, O Lord of all the worlds, I know that my people deserve punishment thou hast decreed, but may it please thee to deal with thee accordingly to thy attribute of mercy, and take pity upon the works of thy hands, for thy tender mercies are all over thy works. Almost Yahuwah had yielded to Uzzah's entreaties when Michael gave a sign to Gabriel and made him fly by Egypt swiftly to fetch. Y'all remember this? Remember when that? Listen, I'm gonna see if y'all remember when this happened. Listen, Yahuwah was almost about to give mercy and grant Uzzah's wish and not to destroy the Egyptians, right? Gabriel and them, they some sharp thinkers thinking ahead, right? Listen, I'm gonna see if y'all remember. And we read it about 3 days ago now. Almost Yahuwah had yielded to Uzzah's entreaties when Michael gave a sign to Gabriel and made him fly to Egypt swiftly and fetch thence a brick for which a Hebrew child had been used as mortar. Holding this incriminating object in his hand, Gabriel stepped into the presence of Yahuwah and said, O Lord of the world, wilt thou have compassion with the accursed nation that has slaughtered thy children so cruelly? Then Yahuwah turned himself away from his attribute of mercy, and seating himself upon his throne of justice, he resolved to drown the Egyptians in the sea. He said, that is it, Uzzah. Get out of my face. Let's go. All of them gonna die today. Bro. Oh, and I'm so glad Yah is on our side. Michael stands for us. I'm so glad I was put in the nation that I am in. Bless the most holy. The first upon whose judgment was executed was the angel of Egypt, Uzzah. The first upon whom judgment was executed was the angel of Egypt. Uzzah was thrown into the sea. A similar fate overtook Rahab, the angel of the sea, with his host. Rahab made intercession before Yahuwah in behalf of the Egyptians. He said, "Why shouldest thou drown the Egyptians? Let it suffice the Israelites that thou hast saved them from out of the hand of their masters." And Yahuwah dealt Rahab and his army a blow, under which they staggered and fell dead. And then he cast their corpse into the sea, whence its unpleasant odor. Okay, who we at? Okay, I'll read this last little section right here. Okay. At the moment when the last of the Israelites stepped out of the bed of the sea, the first of the Egyptians set foot into it. But in the same instant, the waters surged back into their wonted place, and all the Egyptians perished. But drowning was not the only punishment decreed upon them by Yahuwah. He undertook a thoroughgoing campaign against them. When Pharaoh was preparing to persecute the Israelites, he asked his army which of the saddle beasts was the swiftest runner. That one he would use. And they said, "There is none swifter than thy piebald mare, who like is to be found nowhere in the world." According, Pharaoh mounted the hare and pursued after the Israelites seaward. And while Pharaoh was inquiring of his army as to the swiftest animal to mount, Yahuwah was questioning the angels as to the swiftest creature to use to the detriment of Pharaoh. And the angels answered, "O Lord of the world, all things are thine, and all are thy handiwork. Thou knowest well, and it is manifest before thee, that among all thy creatures there is none so quick as the wind that comes from under the throne of thy glory." And Yahuwah flew swiftly upon the wings of the wind. The angels now advanced to support Yahuwah in his war against the Egyptians. Some bore swords, some arrows, and some spears. But Yahuwah warded them off, saying, "Away, I need no help." The arrows sped by Pharaoh against the children of Israel were answered by Yahuwah with fiery darts against the Egyptians. Pharaoh's army advanced with gleaming swords, and Yahuwah sent out lightnings that discomfited the Egyptians. Like, how do you take up a war campaign against the God of war, the God who created war and has all the elements of nature at his disposal? Y'all throwing arrows, he firing out lightning. Bruh, like, you should go home. Go home. Pharaoh hurled Pharaoh hurled missiles, and Yahuwah discharged hailstones and coals of fire against him. With trumpets, sackbuts, and horns, the Egyptians made their assault. But Yahuwah thundered in the heavens, and the Most High uttered his voice. In vain the Egyptians marched forward in orderly battle array. Yahuwah deprived them of their standards, and they were thrown into wild confusion. To lure them into the water, Yahuwah caused fiery steeds to swim up out of the sea, and the horses of the Egyptians followed them, each with a rider upon his back. Now the Egyptians tried to flee their land in their chariots drawn by she-mules, as they had treated the children of Israel in a way contrary to nature, so Yahuwah treated them now. Not the she-mules pulled the chariots, but the chariots, though the fire from heaven had consumed their wheels, dragged the men and beasts into the water. The chariots were laden with silver, gold, and all sorts of costly things, which which the river Pishon, as it flows forth from paradise, carries down to Gihon. Thence the treasures float into the Red Sea, and by its waters they were tossed into the chariots of the Egyptians. I'm sorry, y'all. I need to take a sip of water. Okay. Thence the treasures float into the Red Sea, and by its waters they are tossed into the chariots of the Egyptians. It was the wish of Israel, and for this reason he caused the chariots to roll down into the sea, and the sea in turn cast them out upon the opposite shore at the feet of the Israelites. And Yahuwah fought against the Egyptians also with the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. The former made the soil miry, and the mire was heated to the boiling point by the latter, so that the hoofs of the horses dropped from their feet, and they could not budge from the spot. Slide up here too. Don't sit on my lap. I need you to sit right here. I need you to sit right there. All right, I'm almost done. All right. The anguish and the torture that Yahuwah brought upon the Egyptians at the Red Sea caused them far more excruciating pain than the plagues that they had endured in Egypt. For at the sea he delivered them into the hands of the angels of destruction, who tormented them pitilessly. Yahuwah had not endowed the Egyptians with a double portion of strength. They could not have stood the pain a single moment. Let me read that again. Had Yahuwah not endowed the Egyptians with a double portion of strength, they could not have stood the pain a single moment. The last judgment executed upon the Egyptians corresponded to the wicked designs harbored against Israel by the three different parties among them when they set out in pursuit to liberate of their liberated slaves. The first party had said, "We will bring Israel back to Egypt." The second had said, "We will strip them bare." And the third had said, "We will slay them all." Yahuwah blew upon the first with his breath, and the sea covered them. The second party he shook into the sea, and the third he pitched into the depths of the abyss. He tossed them about as lentils are shaken up and down in a saucepan. The upper ones are made to fall to the bottom, and the lower ones fly to the top. This was the experience of the Egyptians. And worse still, the first rider and his beast were whisked high up in the air, and then the two together, the rider sitting upon the back of the beast, were hurled to the bottom of the sea. Okay, y'all, we're almost done. We got a couple of paragraphs. The Egyptians endeavored to save themselves from the sea by conjuring charms, for they were great magicians. Of 10 measures of magic allotted to the world, they had taken 9 for themselves. Listen, y'all, pay attention to some of this stuff. Like some of the stuff I've been finding out, I just been kind of like keeping real quiet about. I'm like, what? So I haven't shared some of the stuff, but some of this, as I had been finding it out before, and then I also started reading it here. I'm like, what? Because I remember when I was younger, right? My grandma had this Bible. It was a big Bible. She said the Bible, it was like her family Bible, and she used to talk to me about it all the time, right? And she said in her original family Bible, she said she'll never forget it, but it contained, like before they had started, well, there were some things that were canonized that were later taken out piece by piece. And I think the last portion that was taken out was like the books that they now call the Apocrypha. But she said also what was in that Bible was called the Book of White Magic and the Book of Black Magic. I'm like, what, Grandma? She said, yeah. She said it was in her family. They had it. You know, they used to, read through. I'm like, what? So for a while, I used to look. I was like, where is this Bible? Do they still have one of these? I don't know that they still have it all together. Like, let me tell you, when they were doing the inauguration the other day, President Biden, when he was swearing in, there was this Bible that he used. Y'all can go pull it up. It was like, it looked like ancient. It was like probably like this thick. They said it was his family Bible. And that's what caught my attention. I'm like, what is in that Bible? I want to see that Bible. I say, is it just a bunch of pages with big letters with currently what we have? Or does that have books in it, like some of the old ancient books that they actually have left in it that is not readily available to the masses still in that fashion right there? Like, go look at it. Pull it up and watch him swearing in, and look at that thick Bible that they say is his family Bible that he swore in on, right? Guys, I be thinking about a lot of stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. Some of this stuff is starting to make sense. But I don't really talk about it to everybody. Me and my sisters talk about it. Like, listen, did you pay attention to this? Go back and look at this. What is this talking about right here? What is this referring to? Listen. The Egyptians endeavored to save themselves from the sea by conjuring charms, for they were great magicians. Of the 10 measures of magic allotted to the world, they had taken 9 for themselves. And indeed, they succeeded for the moment. They escaped out of the sea, but immediately the sea said to itself, how can I allow the pledge entrusted to me by Yahuwah to be taken from me? And the water rushed after the Egyptians and dragged back every man of them. Among the Egyptians were the 2 arch magicians, Jannes and Jambres. They made wings for themselves with which they flew up to heaven. They also said to Pharaoh, if God himself has done this thing, we can effect naught, like we can do nothing. But if this work has been put into the hands of his angels, then we will shake his lieutenants into the sea. They proceeded at once to use their magic contrivances, whereby they dragged the angels down. These cried up to Yahuwah, save us, O God, for the waters are come in unto our soul. Speak thy word that will cause the magicians to drown in the mighty waters. And Gabriel cried to Yahuwah, by the greatness of thy glory, dash thy adversaries to pieces. Hereupon Yahuwah bade Michael to go and execute judgment upon the 2 magicians. The archangel seized hold of Jannes and Jambres by the locks of their hair, and he shattered them against the surface of the water. Thus all the Egyptians were drowned. Only one was spared, Pharaoh himself. When the children of Israel raised their voices to sing a song of praise to Yahuwah at the shores of the Red Sea, Pharaoh heard it as he was jostled hither and thither by the billows, and he pointed his finger heavenward and called out, I believe in thee, O God, thou art righteous, and I and my people are wicked, and I acknowledge now that there is no God in the world beside thee. Without a moment's delay, Gabriel descended and laid an iron chain about Pharaoh's neck, holding him securely, and addressed him thus, Villain, yesterday thou didst say, who is the Lord that I shall hearken to his voice? And now thou sayest the Lord is righteous? With that he let him drop into the depths of the sea, and there he tortured him for 50 days to make the power of Yahuwah known to him. At the end of the time, he installed him as the king of the great city of, guess where he sent him to? Nineveh. So remember when Jonah, the story of Jonah, guess who the king of Nineveh was that time? Yes, the very Pharaoh from Egypt himself. The book of Jasher also tells us this if you read through it, right? At the end of the time, he installed him. Matter of fact, it tells you that after this, that Yahuwah dropped him right in Nineveh, right? And go read that story today, y'all. At the end of the time, he installed him as king of the great city of Nineveh. After the lapse of many centuries, when Jonah came to Nineveh, he prophesied to overthrow the city on account of the evil done by the people. It was Pharaoh who, seized by fear and terror, covered himself with sackcloth and sat in ashes with his own mouth and made proclamation and published this decree through Nineveh. Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water, for I know that there is no God beside him in all the world, and all his words are truth, and all his judgments are true and faithful. So remember how Jonah was so pissed. I don't want to go to Nineveh because I know you are merciful, and your loving kindness will cause you to forgive all these sins. And none of these people deserve to live. They all deserve to die. So I don't want to go. I ain't going. And he tried to run, but he gave Pharaoh a second chance. And so when Jonah, wait a minute, Pooh.
I already watched it.
Okay. And so when Jonah finally did go to Nineveh and he was obedient, it was Pharaoh himself. And Pharaoh had a second time to redeem him and another whole country of people. And so when Jonah finally came and gave the message, Pharaoh's like, I done ran into him before. Listen, everybody stop eating. This is no, but everybody need to repent. Everybody in this country put on sackcloth and ashes. Don't let your babies, don't let the beasts, nobody eats. We don't want no smoke with him. And Yahuwah forgave Nineveh, and he did not destroy them at that time. Listen. Let me go back up a sentence.
Mom.
Hold on.
Look.
Wait a minute, Pooh. At the end, and I got like a couple more sentences. I'm going to just read this over. At the end of the time, he installed him as king of the great city of Nineveh. And after the lapse of many centuries, when Jonah came to Nineveh, he prophesied the overthrow of the city on account of the evil done by the people. It was Pharaoh who, seized by fear and terror, covered himself with sackcloth and sat in ashes, and with his own mouth made proclamation and published this decree throughout Nineveh: let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water, for I know that there is no God besides him in all the world. All his words are truth, and all his judgments are true and faithful. Pharaoh never died and never will die. He always stands at the portal of hell, and when the kings of the nations enter, he makes the power of Yahuwah known to them at once in these words: O ye fools, have ye not learned the knowledge from me? I am denied the Lord God, and he brought 10 plagues upon me, sent me to the bottom of the sea, kept me there for 50 days, released me then and brought me up. Thus I could not but believe in him. Yahuwah caused the Egyptians to be washed ashore in their death struggle. There were 4 reasons for this. The Israelites were not to say that they themselves had escaped, so also the Egyptians had passed through the sea dry shod. Only the latter had gone in another direction and therefore had vanished from sight. The Egyptians, on the other hand, were not to think that the children of Israel had been drowned in the sea like themselves. In the third place, the Israelites were to have as their booty, the silver, gold, and other precious things which the Egyptians were decked. And finally, the Israelites were to enjoy the satisfaction of seeing their enemies suffer. With their finger, they could point them out one by one, saying, this one was my taskmaster, who beat me with those fists of his at which dogs are now gnawing. And yonder Egyptian, the dogs are chewing the feet with which he kicked me. As they lay on the shore in their last agony, they had to witness their own destruction at the victory of the Israelites, and they also beheld the suffering of their brethren that had remained behind in Egypt. For Yahuwah poured out his punishment over the whole people, whether in Egypt or at the Red Sea. As for the corpses by the shores of the sea, they did not remain unburied. The earth swallowed them by way of reward for Pharaoh's having acknowledged the justice of the chastisement that had been inflicted upon king and people. Before their corpses had been disposed of in this way, there had been a quarrel between the earth and the sea. The sea said to the earth, take thy children unto thyself. And the earth retorted, keep those whom thou hast slain. The sea hesitated to do as the earth bade, for fear that Yahuwah would demand them back on the day of judgment. And the earth hesitated because it remembered with terror the curse that had been pronounced upon it for having, for having sucked up Abel's blood. Only after Yahuwah swore an oath not to punish it for receiving the corpses of the Egyptians would the earth swallow them. All right, y'all. So we're going to finish that up tomorrow. Hold on. I need another sip of water. Jeez. Sometimes my throat I get groggy with a whole bunch of reading. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. We read Leviticus 3, 4, and 5. And in the Legends of the Jews, page 249 to page 252. And that's in volume 3. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. Hold on. Let me come back to that in a second. Let's go ahead and do the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, on this wise
You shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I don't think I said the day again. It is Friday, January 22nd, 2021, day 57 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 3-year consecutive day count, day 726. Bella, don't mess with those. All right, y'all. So.
Please don't burn me.
Okay. All right, just checking. Okay, say something. I just want to make sure. What's that question? It says to be 130 years old. I can't add the picture of the Bible right now, but I will when the video is done. What? I guess y'all was talking amongst yourselves. Y'all was talking about 130 years old. Was said to be 130 years old. Okay, that don't look like it was a question or a remark to me. But anyway, beautiful people, I love y'all. I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, 7:30. Weekends, remember, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that being said, we out of here.